Hi, and welcome to your class today. Today we are doing a 15-minute yoga practice and a 5-minute meditation practice. One of my favorite things to keep in mind when I am practicing before I do a meditation is that the whole practice of yoga was created, at least from some of my teaching, was created so that monks and people in ashrams could sit in meditation for longer comfortably, so their body didn't start to ache and pain and pull their mind away from this deep meditation practice. So it really is essential for us to move our bodies before sitting for long periods of time. When we sit for long periods of time for work, for driving, for doing all the things we do in our day-to-day lives, the yoga practice is very essential for that, to make give our bodies a little bit more ease and not be so tensed up all the time. So just keep that in mind as we move around and we challenge ourselves today. We are going to start off in a standing centering practice since we'll be sitting at the end of class. Start off by just rocking from the toes to the heels, rooting down in the feet. Feel that awareness from the feet travel up into the hips as we draw the tailbone under and draw the low belly in. And then once the feet get centered directly under the hips, we find that Tadasana position. We'll spread out the toes and let them ground down. And then we relax the shoulders, reaching the crown of the head up so we feel ourselves get a little taller. Notice if by lifting the crown of the head, we lift the chin, and we'll draw the chin down so that the chin and the top of the head are in two parallel lines. Good. And that we get a little length through the back of the neck, and then we can close the eyes softly. Feel yourself in the space. Nice big inhale through the nose. Exhale all the way out through the nose. Stay here for a few breaths, just sifting through whatever extra thoughts, distractions you brought to the mat today. The end of your next exhale, we'll draw the chin all the way to the chest, lengthening the back of the neck. Inhale, one ear towards the shoulder. Exhale, we'll draw the chin all the way back to the chest and over to the other side. Continue to find some opening through the back of the neck. Make sure the shoulders don't round forward. Linking movement with breath. Good. We'll do one more in each direction. And chin comes back to the chest. Slowly blink the eyes open, and we'll lift the gaze back up. Good. We're going to take a big inhale, reach those arms out to the side, and give ourselves a nice big hug. Since we can't hug others, we'll spend that time giving ourselves a little love. We'll rock side to side. Notice if the feet start to lift up, keep the feet grounded. See if you can start to wiggle the fingers back a little bit more. Gentle squeeze through the front of the heart without rounding. And then pull the shoulders down. Good. Imagine you're taking off a big, cozy sweater. And we're going to lift up. And as the wrists cross, we turn the palms to face in towards each other, and we feel this opening through the shoulders and neck. Notice if the shoulders are up towards the ears, and we'll pull them away. And then just decide where it feels good for you to have the hands. They may be more out in front of the face as we bend the elbows to pull the shoulder blades back, or they might be lifted above. If it doesn't feel quite right and there's a little too much tension in the shoulders and neck, then you can just bring the back of the hands together. This cross of the wrists provides a little bit more traction for the neck and shoulders, but the back of the hands together works fine too. Give the head and neck a little shake, And then bring that awareness back down into the torso, the front of the rib cage and the lower belly, and see if you can correct that curve of letting the belly spill forward so we can create stability at the center. Good. We'll take one more breath. As you exhale, let those hands release. We'll bring the fists to the low back. Good. Pull the elbows together, and instead of letting this pressure of the fists on the low back push the torso forward, see if you can draw that same awareness, stability at the center, to push the low back into the fists. Good. We'll draw the shoulder blades down, make the neck long without lifting the head, and take one more breath. Exhale all the way. We'll release those hands down. Let's try that hug again. Reach the hands out. This time, opposite hand on top. So if it feels like you just did that side, switch it up, or do what feels natural and then switch it. We usually do the same cross of the legs, same cross of the arms, with our dominant arm first, since that feels most natural. Good. Give the head and neck a shake. Drop those shoulder blades down. If your arms allow, you can even wiggle the fingers to the back of the shoulder blades. Give yourself a little massage right around the shoulder blades. Sometimes that feels nice. Inhale here. Exhale, we'll start to lift those arms up. Good. Turn when the wrists cross. Back of the hands come together. Pull the elbows back. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. And you might feel a little warming sensation, a little heat building around the top of the shoulders. It should feel welcomed, not like it's causing more tension. Check back in at that stability at the center of the body, rib cage drawing down, tailbone tucking under. Nice, slow breaths. One more inhale. Exhale, hands release. Good. Fists come to the low back once again. We draw in, pushing in, and at the same time that we push forward, we're counteracting that with a draw in through the belly to push back. So we use both sides, kind of creating a nice, firm contact at the low back with the fists. We'll inhale here. Exhale, squeeze the elbows together, draw the elbows down. Neck is long, chin slightly tucked to lengthen the back of the neck. And then we'll release those hands. Third and final time, we reach the arms right up to that upward facing hands position, drop the shoulders down, and interweave the fingers. Good. Creating a little halo around the head, elbows are bent, and we turn the palms to face up. Again, you're going to just do what feels comfortable for you. Arms may be out in front of you. They might be up. They could be straight, but as long as you don't let those shoulders creep up towards the ears. For most of us, we're going to keep a slight bend in the elbows to give us that space around the neck. Check in. Few big inhales and exhales. Good. Root down in the feet. Check in on the lower part of the torso. Elbows keep working back. Pinky fingers keep working back as much space as is available at this moment. If you're practicing in the morning, it's not uncommon for the shoulders to be a little tighter, for the whole body to be a little tighter. End of the day, you might be more open. One more inhale. Exhale, we'll reach the hands out to the sides. Hands to the low back or the sides of the hips, and slight bend in the knees as we fold forward. Good. Let the head hang, release. Nice job. Fingertips might come down to the floor. They might come down to blocks or a support, a chair. We're just going to give it a lot of space, letting the hips sway side to side. I'm just kind of laying on the top of my thighs. I'm not worrying about straight legs at this point. Good. Think about opening up that spine, letting everything just pour down. Any thoughts just pour out towards the floor. Inhale here. Exhale all the way. Our next inhale brings us about halfway up. So keep those knees bent. Hand can be on the shins or the thighs. And then we're going to bring the hands to the back of the body. So you might find that bent elbow position, hands on the hips. Or if it feels okay, you could interweave the fingers behind just like we did above. We're rooting the knuckles back. Good. Take an inhale to lift the chest forward. And here we'll start to get the legs slightly straighter. They're still going to be a little bit bent. And then fold. Good. So this is going to deepen. If it's too much, come back up to that lifted chest position, just kind of a half fold. If you feel comfortable going forward, really start to lift the hips up. You can stay here, or you might even let the hands fall away from the low back. Do what makes sense for you. Make sure you can maintain the breath. 2 more full inhales and exhales. Last one. We'll bring the hands to the low back once again if they're not already there. Bend the knees, and we'll bring the hands all the way down. Good. Bend the knees enough to come into a tabletop position. We are going to be in and out of a tabletop position, so if you want some extra support with a blanket, feel free to add that in. Root down in the hands, roll the shoulders back, find that same length, and then we'll inhale into our cow pose. Exhale, round into cat. Try that a few more times. Root down in the hands, inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. The push, the traction that we provide by pushing the hands in, rooting the shins and the top of the feet down, gives us a little bit more space. Last one. And exhale. Good. We'll tuck the toes under, walk those hands forward. 1 handprint, and lift up to our first downward facing dog. Remember to keep the center of the body stabilized so we create openness through the low back. Good. When you're ready, we'll press the chest back, pull the shoulders away from the ears, find that same space we found in the beginning of class, and then pedal out the legs, bending one knee deeply and then the other. Feel the hips sway side to side, creating space. Whatever movement feels best for you. About 2 or 3 more breaths with movement. When you're ready, we'll come back to center. Even everything out and then lower down nice and slow with control. Good. Our resting pose is tabletop position. If you feel more comfortable in a child's pose, feel free to take that. But tabletop is a perfectly good place to rest and reset. Our next downward dog is just going to be a static hold. So we want to make sure we're setting up nice and strong to hold here. Take a moment to notice the fingers. As I normally say, we look for those pizza slice shapes between each finger so you can see the mat between the fingers. They're not drawing all together. And then push down in the hands to bend the elbows. Good. Imagine that you're wrapping the elbows back one at a time and then straighten the arms. Good. That sets us up, and we already have that angle of the wrists out in front of the shoulders. We want to make sure we have that. As soon as the shoulders come over the wrists, a lot of weight pours into the wrist and we create a little bit more tension. When you're ready, tuck the toes under, slowly lift up, chest pressing back. Good. Perfectly fine to keep the knees bent in order to get those hips lifted. That's going to create a really nice opening for the back, and they might stay there the entire pose. If it feels okay to straighten the legs without letting the shoulders shift forward, you might let those heels lower, hips stay lifted. Good. Gaze is at the center of the mat, or maybe even towards the big toes. Give the head and neck a shake, no tension in the neck and shoulders. And here we just breathe. Find that sense of ease, even when it's not easy. Very last breath. Try not to rush it. Stay for the full duration of the exhale. And then we'll lower back down. Good, nice job. Rest in tabletop position. If those wrists need a break, just alternate flipping the hands. Nice job. Good. We'll take one more downward facing dog, and this time we're going to shift from downward dog to plank. This is a great way to test out the length between the feet and the hands. So come on up to downward dog. Inhale, we're going to shift forward to our first plank. If you get to the point where the shoulders are over the wrists and the hips are a little too high like mine are, you're going to walk those feet back so we can bring the hips more in line with the heels and the shoulders. Gaze is forward in our plank, and then we go back, downward dog. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, back, downward dog. We're going to take 4 more. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Last one here. We come back down to plank, lower the knees down. Good, roll the shoulders back, and we'll sit on the heels. I'll turn and face. Good. If this isn't a comfortable seated position for you, you don't have to stay here, but we're just going to open up the wrists a little bit and do a few side bends. So roll out those wrists, even out, interweave the fingers, and roll them out. You can also just give a little tug each direction. Good, nice job. Perfectly normal for the wrists to feel a little something after doing some downward dog movements. You can even create a little bracelet with the middle finger and the thumb around the wrist joint and then roll it out. Just a gentle little pressure. Try that on the other side. Good. All right, with our next breath, we're going to bring that right hand down towards the floor. Left hand comes all the way behind the head. Good, push the hips over to that left side, and then we're going to pull the elbow back. Good, you might gaze up at the ceiling, feeling this extension run down through the armpit, maybe even down into the outer hip. Good, depending on how much space you'd like to create in this posture. Good. This is causing any tension in the neck. Hand does not need to be on the back of the head, and you can keep the gaze forward. Take one more full breath wherever you are. Exhale, push into that bottom hand, lift it back up. Good. And we'll bring the other hand over to the other side. Left hand down, hips go over to the right side just a little bit. Feel that opening up through the side of the body. You might stay here, or you can bring the hand to the back of the head. Pull the elbow back. Maybe gaze up, feeling that opening. Very last one. And exhale, we'll come back to center. Good, nice job. All right, just in time to sit down and do our meditation. I encourage you to have something to sit on. I'm going to stay sitting on my heels today. Whatever posture allows you to not be constantly called back to the body. So if you are uncomfortable, your mind will keep pulling you out of your meditation or your breathing practice. All right, so as you start to get comfortable, use whatever props you might want to cover up. You could add some extra layers if you find yourself getting cold. And then we'll find that same awareness of pushing the tailbone down to connect us to what's below the earth, and then reaching the top of the head up, not the forehead, but the top of the head. Good. Feeling our spine connect us with what's above and what's below as we stay right in the middle in the present moment. Good. We'll start to inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Taking the first part of this practice to just pay attention to the breath. Every time the mind pulls us away, we bring our attention back. As we know, the mind will constantly be working to take our attention somewhere else. And we always have the ability to bring our attention back. So I rarely ever sit down for a practice and the mind is completely clear and never gets pulled away by a distracting thought or a physical sensation. We just remind ourselves that each time we do the work of bringing our attention back to the breath, back to the moment, it gets easier and easier to do the following times. Almost like we're flexing that muscle in our brain that allows us to do that. It gets stronger, makes it easier for the future. As things start to slow down, see if you can soften any tension in the body. So we soften between the eyebrows. Sometimes the task of focusing causes us to tighten up there. Soften the cheeks and the jaw by letting the teeth sit apart. Tongue is relaxed in the bottom of the mouth. And as you come deeper into this stillness practice, you might even forget about the intentional breathing, and that's perfectly fine. End of your next breath, you can start to bring some movement back into the body. Maybe wiggle fingers and toes. Roll out the head and neck again. We'll blink the eyes open, bringing your awareness back into the space. Good, and just noticing how it feels to be still for a few moments. Good, thank you for tuning in today. The light in me honors the light in each and every one of you. Namaste.